A landmark court ruling will force companies to ask staff to work before automatically rostering them on public holidays. So far it's just BHP, but the implications will be far-reaching, including the mining industry, 24/7 operations and aged care. Lawyer Libby McLean from Pragma Lawyers joins us. Good afternoon to you, Libby.
Hi, Monika.
We're just days out from Easter, a time that many people want to take off. What rights would employees have under these new rules?
Monika, employees are entitled to be absent from work on public holidays, but employers can request that they work, and employees are allowed to refuse that request, but the refusal has to be reasonable, as does the employer's request.
OK, so employees can flat out refuse if it's reasonable?
Only if it's reasonable.
What about employers? Because rosters still need to be filled, and for FIFO work this could come at a huge cost.
Yes, Monika, it will be quite problematic for the mining industry, industries that require work 365 days a year. It's going to be harder to get employees to work on public holidays now. Essentially, employers are going to need to request the work well in advance and really negotiate it with the employees. It's not going to be enough to rely on rosters anymore.
Do workers have the right, though, to disconnect?
They don't have a statutory right to disconnect yet, but it's something that we're probably going to see in Australia, as we have seen in European countries. Yeah, things seem to be moving that way.
What should employers be doing, Libby, in light of this court decision?
Employers should be looking at their rostering arrangements, the way they arrange work on public holidays. They shouldn't be relying on their employment contracts. Contracts tend to say employees may be required to work on public holidays. It's no longer going to be enough to rely on those contractual provisions or to rely on rosters. Employers are going to have to get organised and request public holiday work well in advance and assume that a lot of employees are going to refuse it.
Well, there is a strong response to this topic on our Facebook page. Christina Thomas asks, is this across all industries or a select few? I struggle to believe that mining and civil FIFO companies would be willing to comply with this.
Good question. The case actually considered the Fair Work Act, so that act applies to all employees of national system employers across the country. So it essentially will apply to all national system employers and employees, so that's most people.
Brian Horton says no such thing as a public holiday in mining.
Well, if you're requested to work and the request is reasonable and you don't refuse it, or your refusal is unreasonable, then you will be required to work, so that hasn't changed.
Can you see it being tested, though?
It may be tested, and this decision may well be appealed, so watch this space.
This one from Cheryl Ann Flynn. Really? What about hospitals? Going to ask staff if they want to work public holidays?
It's going to be very tricky for hospitals because obviously a lot of people, particularly if they don't get additional pay to work on public holidays, are going to request those days off. So what I think we're going to see is employers offering really generous incentives to encourage people to work public holidays.
Brad Hughes asks, how about reinstating penalty rates? What are the workplace arrangements affecting penalty rates?
Well, the answer to that, Monika, depends on the particular industry and whether a modern award applies. So we do have penalty rates for a lot of modern awards that cover a lot of industries, and most of them do provide much higher rates for public holidays.
Woody Hill reckons bosses rule now, not people. Work or get lost is their attitude.
Well, Monika, essentially the court said the opposite. Really, this was a big win for the unions. This is really going to require employers to do a lot more work before they can lawfully require employees to work on public holidays. So I'd say this was really a win for workers and unions.
And finally, Mining Watch writes, don't work for flat rate on public holidays.
Perhaps miners are going to have to offer much higher rates in order to keep those mines operating 365 days a year, and it will just...
Really? Higher rates?
Even more. Even more so, Monika.
Libby McLean, sorry, apologies.
That's okay.
Libby McLean from Pragma Lawyers, we really appreciate you being with us this afternoon. It's a fascinating conversation.
Thanks, Monika. Thanks for having me.